Hello everybody, my name is Miss Oliveras and I'm going to be your math teacher this year. And this video is going to be not only for pre-algebra, it's also for algebra. This is our introduction to math. And today we're going to be talking about variables and expressions. But first, let's take a look and see what we are going to be doing. After this video, we're going to be able to write expressions that record operations with numbers and with letters standing for numbers. And our vocabulary word is going to be variable, constant, expressions, terms, and coefficients. But first, let's see what's a numerical expression. And that's very easy. A numerical expression is just a mathematical phrase that contains only constants and or operations. That means numbers. To evaluate a numerical expression, you will find a numerical value. For example, if I were to multiply 4 times 10, that is a numerical expression. Now let's do an example right here. And it says find the value of each numerical expression. Follow the order of operation when finding each of the value. Now for those who doesn't remember the order of operations, the first thing that we always going to solve our parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication and division depending on where they are, because we always solve those two left from right. Then addition and subtraction, and again, addition and subtraction, it depends also where they add, and we always answer them from left to right. So look at this operation. Where would we start if we follow our order of operations? If you said that we're going to divide, you were correct. Now I'm going to pause this video. You can pause this video at this point and try to solve this problem by yourself at your notebook, and then check out the answer in the next slide. As you can see, the first thing that we did was solve our division. That was 10 divided by 2, and it gave us 5. Then I just put everything else down and solve the operation, adding and subtracting left from right. First, I answered the 12 plus 5, the addition, that was 17, and then the subtraction. And that is our order of operation. If you had a 13 as your result, then good job. Now let's see this other example. It says find the value of each numerical expression. Follow the order of operation when finding each value. Again, look at the operation and tell me, where will we start? What will be the first step to answer this type of question, this operation? Again, pause this video at this point and try to solve it on your notebook. Once you're finished, press play again and watch the answer on the next slide. As you can see, the first thing that we did was solve the division. We divided 20 by 10, and that gave us a 2. Then we solved for addition, and we added 2 plus 6, and that was 8. If your answer was 8, then good job. Let's do another here, and it says, again, follow the order of operation. What will be our first step? If you are saying that we're going to multiply and divide left from right, you are correct. Again, you can pause this video at this point, try to solve it on your notebook, and check out the answer in the next slide. As you can see, I first multiplied, then I divide left from right, then I did my subtraction, and the answer was 22. So if your answer was 22, good job. Now that we have studied what is a numerical expression, let's check out what is a variable expression. And a variable expression is a mathematical phrase that may contain variables, constant, and operations. What is a variable? Well, a variable is very simple. It's just a letter and that represents numbers or one more than one number. It can also be an unknown number. The variables that we typically use are X and Y. Sometimes we also use the letter C, but we can use any letter from the alphabet from A to C to represent those variables. Now let's define what's a constant. And a constant is just a number that it is not joined to a variable. And it's called like that because its value never changes the value of that variable. In each one of those algebraic expression is made up terms, and those terms are just a sign number. It can be a variable, it can be a constant multiplied by variable or variables, and it's normally typically separated by an addition or subtraction. When a term is made of a constant and is multiplied by variables or variables, that constant is called a coefficient, and I'm going to show you that in the next in the next slide. As you can see here, we have a coefficient, and the coefficient is that little number that is multiplying the variable, and a constant. As you can see, it is separated from that variable. And when I talk about a term, I can see that is separated by, again, by an addition or a subtraction sign. And you can see that I have one term here and another term there. So that operation, it is made of two terms. It has one coefficient that will be the number 5. It has one variable that will be our x, and it has one constant that will be our 7. Now let's put our knowledge to the test. Now let's check out this example that we have here. It says to find the terms, the constants, and the coefficients of each expressions, and you have 2x minus 10. What will be our terms? How many terms do we have in that expression? What are the terms in that expression? Now, what are the variables in that expression? What is the constant in that expression, and what is the coefficient in that expression? Now you can pause the video at this point, try to solve it by yourself in your notebook, and check out the answer in the next slide. As you can see, we have two terms, 1 and 2, and those terms are 2x and 10. Our variable, we only have one, and that is x. Our constant, again, that is the number that is separated from our variable and never changes. That is our number 10. And our coefficient is the number 2. That is the number that is sticking to our little variable there and actually modifies that variable. Now we have another example right here. It says again to find the terms, constants, and coefficients for each of the expressions. And my question is, how many terms do we have? What are those terms? What are the variables? What are the constants? And what are the coefficients? Again, you can pause this video at this point and try to solve it in your notebook. Once you finish, try to check out the answer in the next slide. As you can see, we have three terms, 1, 2, 3. They are all separated by the plus sign. And those terms are x. We have another term here that is 4y. And another term that is 32. Now, what are those variables? We have one variable here that is x. We have another variable here that is y. And a constant, that is that number that is separated from those variables, and that is the number 32. Now the coefficient is that number that is near our variables, and we have the number 4 and the number 1. Even though we don't see the number 1 there on our x, there's always a coefficient, there's always a coefficient next to our variables. And if I don't draw it or I don't write it down, that just means it's the number 1, because we know that everything that we multiply by 1 is the same as the other number. So when I ask you what is the coefficients in that problem or in that operation, you will say in this case, for example, that you have a number 1 here next to your x and a 4 here next to your y. So good job. Now, expressions are like instructions that they tell you what you have to do to a number or a variable. Expressions are used to write word problems in mathematical terms. So let's try to write a word problem in a mathematical term. So for example, a number minus 10. How would you write that down? Again, you can pause this video at this time, try to solve it in your notebook, and then check out the answer in the next slide. If you wrote a number that is our variable, we don't know what that means. It's an unknown number. So I use the letter X for that. You can use any letter that you wish. Minus a number that minus 10, that would be a subtraction. So if you wrote it something like this, with any variable in mind, then good job. Now I have another exercise here. Again, you can pause this video at this time and try to solve it. It says the product of a number and 6. How will you write that one? As an algebraic expression. Again, pause this video, try it at home, and check out the answer in the next slide. The product of a number is just the multiplication of a variable and that number. And our variable, I use the letter X, or you can use any variable that you wish. And you just had to multiply by 6, and that's just one of the ways that you can write it. You can also put a dot in it, or you can just say 6 and x together. That is also an acceptable way to write a multiplication, or you can use parentheses. That is also a very acceptable way to do or represent multiplications. Now let's check out this problem. It says write the algebraic expression of each verbal phrase. Again, it says this time 12 less than a number, and I want to emphasize that those words, I'm going to highlight them. Less than a number. And that less than, specifically that less than, has a little connotation. Just think about it a little while. Try to write it down on your notebook and then check out the answer in the next slide. Again, we have a number that is an unknown number, and I use the variable x, and that number is going to be 12 less than. That's why I put that subtraction in after that variable. So it's a number minus 12 instead of 12 minus a number. Again, we have to pay careful attention to what is being asked of us. How about this example? It says 16 plus a number. How will we write that one? Again, you can pause this video at this point and check out the answer in the next slide. So 16 plus a number is just simple. We just write the number 16 and we're going to add it to a variable because it's an unknown number. And again, I use the variable x. You can use any variable that you want. And if your expression looks something like that, then good job. The next one is the sum of n and 8. And we have a comma here, then divided by 4. And again, I want you to see that we have a comma, and that just means that we're going to do this part first and then the other one. So again, try to pause this video at this time, write it down on your notebook, try to answer it by yourself, and then check out the answer in the next slide. The sum of n and 8, I put it in parentheses again because it is something that is a part of the other part of the operation here. That is why the comma is so important. So I just put n plus 8 inside parentheses because we are going to solve that one first. Then we're going to divide by 4. So if it looks something like this, good job. Let's do this one. It says 4 more than 2 times a number. And I want you to think about what it says. Try to do it in your notebook and check out the answer in the next slide. And it's just 4 plus 2 times, and that is a multiplication, a number, and a number is just a variable. So if it looks something like this, then good job. Now let's talk about substituting those values into algebraic expression, and that is just simply using a value for our variables and then simplify the numerical expression. So again, that is just means that I'm going to tell you what that variable means, and you're just going to substitute the number of that variable with that variable and then answer your operation or your numerical expression. So let's do an example, and it says evaluate each expression using the value given, and you have two variables here. It says how much is x plus y, and normally if I didn't give you what those two mean, then it would just stay like this because we do not know, so we cannot add them. But if I tell you what x means and what y means, all you have to do is just substitute that number with the variable and then answer your numeric operation or your algebraic expression. Again, please pause the video and try to answer it in your notebook. Then check out the answer in the next slide. And all we did here was just substitute that number with the variable, and then we just solve the expression. So when x is 2 and y is 6, how much is 2 plus 6? That will be 8. If you had 8 as your answer, then good job. Now I have another example here. Try to do this one in your notebook. And once you're finished, check out the answer in the next slide. So all we did here was just substitute our values with our variables. And we just solve it using the order of operations. So we start with the multiplications and then with our subtraction. So if your answer was 17, then good job. Now let's try to do this one. And remember, we have parentheses. And when we have parentheses, we use the order of operations. Well, we use the order of operations every single time. But when we use parentheses, we solve that parentheses first. Again, try to pause this video at this time. Try to do it on your notebook and check out the answer in the next slide. So all I did right here was to substitute my value with my variable, and my a, that will be that variable a equals 7, so I just substituted there, and my variable b equals 2, so I just substituted there. Then I first did the parentheses, then I multiplied my 10 and my 7, and that was 70. My parentheses was 4, right? And I did that first. Then I multiplied my 10 and my 7, it was a 70. And then I multiplied that 4 with that what I had in that parentheses, that it was 4. So I also multiplied it there. And then I did my subtraction. So if your answer was 52, then the 54, then good job. Again, you have the same thing right here. I'm going to give you a little time so you can try to solve it by yourself. So please try to pause this video at this point and check out the answer in the next slide. Again, all I did right here was just substitute the values of my variables here with my algebraic expression, and then I solved it using the order of operations. So if your answer was a 10, then congratulations, good job. Let's do another one right here. Try again, pause this video, and try to do it all by yourself. Then check out the answer in the next slide. So if you had a 65 as an answer, then good job. And as you can see, all I did was just substitute my values in my expression. Then I solved it using the order of operations. Now, I don't know if you can see, but every single example is a little bit harder than the other one. So let's try to do this one. I know you can do it. You already have done so many. And I know you can do this one too. All you have to do again is to substitute the values in your expression and try to solve them. If your answer was 5, then congratulations. All you had to do was just substitute the values in your expression. Then try to use your order of operation in the top part. Once you have the top part answered, then you can do your simplification or division. The same thing here right here. And if you answered 5, then good job. Now, I hope you enjoyed this little video that talks about how to use algebraic expressions and variables. And this is going to be the homework for pre-algebra. This is not the homework for algebra. And it's going to be page 7 and 8 of your textbooks. That is your exercises. Again, I only take the answers of those exercises in my Google form. It's just easier for me instead of you guys putting everything in PDF and send it to my email. You're just going to put the answers and only the answers on that Google form, and you're going to send them to me. And for our algebra homework, you're going to go to page 9 and 11 of your textbooks, and those are going to be your exercises. Again, please be reminded that we have a pre-algebra and an algebra homework in this video, so please look very carefully where is your information. You can also find this on your LMS in College 1 with a little bit more details and a presentation just dedicated to you. Again, those are the pages, these are the exercises, and you're going to answer them in this Google form and just the answers, and you're going to send them to me. I really hope you enjoy this presentation and see you in our next class. Bye!